It's about the view. It's like it's become like a medical hospital that displays human misfailure. Like it's like here, let's look at this political oddity. You know, it's like it really is like the left-wing equivalent of a carnival sideshow, except instead of bearded ladies and fat clowns and two-headed cows. Well, let me rephrase that. But The View is a victim of the sunk cost fallacy. You know, how can you now speak the truth when for years you've been telling lie after lie after lie? Now you're carrying this big bag of rocks around you because it's too harmful for their ego to admit that we really were dishonest.
Sunny Hostin just found out the hard way. You don't walk into a verbal showdown with a butter knife when your opponents are wielding blowtorches. Timpf and Gutfeld didn't just roast her, they practically flambéed her on live TV. The way they tag-teamed her turned the segment into something that looked less like a debate and more like a televised emotional takedown.
He's such a group. It's amazing how Joy and Whoopi became the smart ones.
For me, the most shocking thing about the conversation was how truly boring it was. They're like, well, the cicadas, they're cicadas. Okay, but it was like every 100 years. No, it's every 17 years. Do you know how many Emmys this show has? 31.
31 Emmys?
This show has 31. I mean, I'd hate to see the conversations that don't make headlines.
Sunny Hostin was having a normal week, or at least as normal as it gets when your job is sitting at a table on national television pretending your opinion is gospel. The View was rolling along smoothly, like a high school group project where everyone pretends they're not judging each other, but is absolutely judging each other. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, came the storm.
Now to some news. The feral monsters of The View say they've never heard of you-know-who. True, the show that makes mornings hell claim that my name doesn't ring a bell. It's time for...
Our view on The View. Ugh.
Yeah, the witch's coven finally shows me some lovin'. Yesterday on The View, yours truly was the subject of conversation. Apparently, the broads have no idea who I am, or so they say. Hit it, Gladys.
They said that Gutfeld talks about you all the time.
Who is he? Well, really, who is he?
I don't watch the show.
He has a show.
I don't watch the
never
show.
Heard of him.
Yeah.
I guess he's just obsessed with me.
No. Next, Joy's going to say she's never heard of carbs.
Brutal doesn't even begin to cover it. Sunny Hostin experienced the kind of psychological dismantling that belongs in a college syllabus. How to trigger a meltdown with just smirks and sarcasm. So what exactly did Timpf and Gutfeld say that sent Sunny spiraling on live TV? Let's just say the roast was so fierce, even Joy Behar looked like she was suddenly reconsidering her seat at the table. It started off like a typical episode, Sunny poised, polished, and delivering her signature sermon disguised as commentary. But then, bam, the vibe shifted. The studio morphed into a verbal war zone. Imagine a high school group project where everyone's fake smiling, secretly hoping someone crashes and burns. Now toss in national cameras, stage lights, and Gutfeld's signature smug energy, and you've got mayhem. Sarcasm hit full throttle, mockery ran wild, and subtlety, that got tossed out before the first commercial break. The worst part? Sunny never saw it coming.
Her denial of knowing me is as believable as her red hair. But obsession? I mean, come on, Joy. Where would you even get that idea? Like Joy Behar's face, it's looking worse and worse by the day. More full of crap than Joy Behar after a night of scotch and Taco Bell. Her being named Joy is like me being named ugly. Joy wasn't there on the show. Apparently Mondays are her days off when she feeds in the pasture. It now smells like a humid day inside Joy Behar's moo-moo. The motives stink worse than Joy Behar's jog bra. I mean, assuming she jogs. Oh, wait, there she is.
Next up, brace yourself for the moment that made the studio go dead silent. This wasn't a heated debate or a dramatic face-off. No intense camera split, no rival hosts trading fire across the table. What went down was colder, sharper, and far more calculated. Sunny Hostin got roasted without even being in the room. It was a drive-by takedown, satirical, stealthy, and absolutely savage. Kat Timpf and Greg Gutfeld didn't need a stage. They spotted their target from across the media landscape and said, "Today's the day," and they delivered. Kat slid up in with that signature snark, her words dressed in sparkle but designed to slice. Gutfeld orchestrated the moment like a ringleader, turning it into a full-blown media circus of mockery. It wasn't just a roast, it was a televised dissection of everything they think is wrong with the insulated world of daytime talk TV Sunny. She wasn't crying, shaking, or breaking down, but the unraveling was subtle and brutal. Her usual confident air started to fray, the polished delivery fell flat. Talking points hit like wet socks, because no matter how prepared you are, you can't train for the moment you become the punchline, especially from a show you've publicly dismissed. And once it landed, the spiral was inevitable.
I just want to hit myself in the face so I can feel something. You know, it's like so boring. He's like, yeah, I like Instacart, but don't worry, I tip the pours. But, you know, Joy, you actually don't like Instacart and you do like the store. And then Joy is like, yeah, I do. I like to go to the store. I like to walk around and see what's at the store, what I do want, what I don't want. Maybe I want tuna fish, and I just want to hit myself.
This wasn't just your average roast. It was the kind of sneak attack that makes the studio lights feel hotter and the air suddenly go still. And forget a single sarcastic jab. This was a full-blown takedown, a masterclass in dismantling a media persona piece by piece. Sunny Hostin's carefully crafted image, equal parts courtroom gravitas, righteous indignation, and dramatic flair, was ripped apart like a soap opera character who accidentally stumbled into a comedy roast hosted by professionals. She brings that slow, serious delivery, the long-winded pauses, and the ever-present "I'm speaking truth to power" tone that works for her daytime loyalists. But when comedians like Kat Timpf and Greg Gutfeld put it under their satirical lens, that gravitas suddenly morphs into a one-woman monologue begging to be mean. Those dramatic pauses, comic gold, that righteous fire, the perfect setup for a merciless punchline. And what made it hit even harder? Kat didn't even raise her voice. No shouting, no ranting, just a sly smile, a well-timed laugh, and that unmistakable bless your heart tone that stings more than a direct insult. She twisted Sunny's high horse rhetoric until it sounded almost nonsensical. It was the kind of roast that made people wonder, has anyone at The View actually interacted with reality lately?
Were you pretty surprised that they didn't know what this show was?
No, I'm also not surprised that there's one part of the video from the show yesterday that you left out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, can we roll that, please?
I don't watch the show that much, but I've seen it.
Who is that?
Who is that?
Greg Gutfeld's one of the hosts of The Five, who, if I don't have anything nice to say, I generally don't say anything at all. I would just say this, his show should be called Kat Timpf, not Gutfeld, because she's the funny one on it.
Somebody's flirting with little Kat over here.
Well, she's the Republican one at the table, but I just think as a libertarian, I'm always looking to find common ground with other people because nobody really shares my politics. So I find some common ground in The View where she thinks I'm funny and I agree.
And then came Gutfeld, the chaos conductor himself, fueling the fire with surgical precision. He didn't just toss out a few zingers, he orchestrated a full-on takedown. It was like watching a science experiment unfold. What happens when performative outrage collides with unapologetic sarcasm? Answer: a roast so deliciously brutal it felt like watching a smug cat knock over your grandma's prized vase, then strut away like it just improved the decor. This wasn't a fair fight. It was intellectual dodgeball, and Sunny never even got her hands on the ball, just kept taking hit after hit, plastering on a smile while mentally checking for bruises during commercial breaks. But the real punchline, it came after. Not from Sunny. There were no retorts, no fiery monologues, not even a cryptic Instagram story with a quote like, "Your peace is louder than their chaos." Just silence. And that silence? Deafening, the kind that suggests something cracked. You could feel it. Her vibe shifted. The next time she spoke on air, the energy was off. Her once steady tone edged into defensive territory. She started tossing out big words like verbal armor, but it rang hollow, like someone desperately flexing a thesaurus after getting roasted for saying irregardless at a Mensa meeting.
The true sign of the apocalypse is someone that dumb has a law degree. Worse, if your name has the word sun in it, there's no excuse for not knowing how an eclipse works. But it's no surprise that Joy is the one who understands science. She's been on the science diet for years. They're turning on me. So that makes Sunny Hostin, who thinks climate change caused the solar eclipse, the dumbest of them all. Because everyone knows the moon caused the eclipse, which is controlled by the View's gravitational.
Kat Timpf didn't need to say another word. The damage was already done. Then came the internet, and it absolutely ran with it. TikTok turned Sunny Hostin's stunned reactions into animated emojis. Twitter fired off reaction GIFs like a digital roast encore. And YouTube, entire breakdown videos popped up analyzing her tone shift like it was evidence from a crime scene. Frame by frame, blink by blink. Sunny didn't just get roasted. She became a meme, and once you're memeified, no heartfelt monologue can put the pieces back together. While her most loyal fans tried to pretend it was business as usual, the rest of the world saw what it really was, a total dismantling. This wasn't just about Sunny, it was a precision strike on The View's entire brand. The moral superiority, the smug commentary, the belief that every word spoken around that table is gospel. Kat and Greg didn't just challenge it, they torched it with nothing but smirks and timing. Sunny's no fool, and that's what made it's so impactful. When someone smart is taken down by their own ego, it's not just dramatic, it's unforgettable. Sincerity might be her armor, but sarcasm, it's sliced right through.
The 4-year-old was mocked by The View over his name, prompting Musk's child to exclaim, "Daddy, I didn't know hippos could talk." Sausage maker Johnsonville is recalling more than 42,000 pounds of pork sausage for possible contamination with plastic fibers. Fortunately, authorities were able to track all 42,000 pounds to a single location in New York City.
For years, The View has floated in a bubble of applause and performative outrage, a VIP corner of daytime TV where the entry fee is confidence and the currency is we know better. But satire doesn't respect bubbles. It pops them loudly and leaves the mess on display. Outrage used to be the rhythm until someone metaphorically crashed the set, knocked over the hors d'oeuvres table, and left with the champagne. No rebuttals, no fiery clapbacks. That was the brilliance. Kat and Greg didn't need a mic drop. The laughter was the mic drop. The silence, that was the standing ovation. Sunny trying to push through like nothing happened only made it worse. Nothing says I'm fine like someone visibly straining to look unbothered. Her fan base kicked into gear with hashtags, think pieces, and defenses. But the rest of the internet, too busy turning the roast into TikToks, memes, and screen-recorded highlight reels. Here's the real tea. When someone builds their entire on-air persona on poise and authority, watching them lose both, even for a second, is viral gold. It's like seeing a swan slip on a banana peel while pretending it was ballet. That's where comedy hits hardest. It doesn't care about titles. It hunts ego and exposes it.
Nah, you look tantalizing. You know, I make fun of The View a lot, but that's only because they keep talking. Because COVID also taught Sunny Hostin how to get her groceries delivered.
3 years, that's when I discovered Instacart, and I give them a big tip because they don't always pay their people well, and it's so that's been an issue, I think, for the company. But man, you can get toiletries, you can get fire logs.
Fire logs? She had to tell the audience that she tips big because even she knows she sounds insufferable.
In that moment, Sunny wasn't clueless, just too serious to realize she'd become the punchline. The show rolled on, coffee mugs clinked, scripted banter resumed, and Sunny held her usual role as the moral compass of the table. But something cracked, not loudly, just a subtle fracture in that polished TV persona. Now, with every rewatch, meme, and awkward silence, that crack grows deeper. The roast didn't even mention her name, and that's what made it sting. Gutfeld and Tim didn't have to aim. They simply held up a mirror polished with sarcasm, and Sunny rushed forward to fight her own reflection. That's when you know you've lost the thread. When a vague joke lands and you're the only one screaming, "How dare you?" As if it was custom made, Kat T delivered the blow with her trademark blend of deadpan and disdain, dropping a roast so effortlessly savage it felt like a lit match tossed into a room soaked in ego. And Sunny, she didn't just walk into the fire. She dove in, arms wide, monologue ready. No one dragged her. She signed up for the dragging while the internet sat back, grabbed popcorn, and watched it all unfold in 4K.
Brains are small, but who's the dumbest one of all? True, none of them are in Mensa, but who's the most densa? Perhaps it's Sunny who mastered the art of making idiots look smart. Now, The View could ask a mirror who's the dumbest one of all, but there's no way that glass doesn't shatter.
Meanwhile, Gutfeld didn't bat an eye. He just kept laughing, like someone watching improv where the actor still doesn't realize they're the punchline. That's the genius of it all. Tim and Gutfeld barely broke a sweat. No receipts, no fact checks, no direct hits, just a tone. Smug, mocking, intellectual with a dash of frat boy chaos. And that was all it took to send Sunny spiraling like a cat trapped in a yarn store with no way out. She unraveled entirely on her own. They didn't need to push. She did all the work. Honestly, it was almost too easy. They set the stage and Sunny wrote her own meltdown. Gutfeld could have been reading IKEA instructions live, and somehow, Sunny would have twisted it into an attack on her moral high ground. That's when you know it's over. Not when the other side pushes back, but when someone starts defending themselves against shots that were never fired. Sunny stormed out of a party she wasn't even invited to, and then called the cops because she didn't like the lighting. It's impressive, really, losing a battle that never even began, all while delivering dramatic pauses and theatrical glares, like something out of a courtroom, not daytime TV. The viewers were the real winners, watching a TV host implode over a roast that didn't even name her.
People have to wonder, where does Sunny Hostin get her opinions?
Yeah.
Like you said, it's obviously from her husband. She has to tell her what to say on The View, because without it, she's got nothing up there. She's not very bright. But the problem with her is that she went full racist. She injected skin color into a fairly generic behavior seen in all spouses. Regardless of skin color, people marry, they listen to each other, they have something in common with them, they share their political views. She just didn't want to upset her husband by saying her husband makes her do everything, and then she'd have to accuse him of being a racist.
That was peak content. It felt like reality TV went on a wild bender with Succession, producing something messy, unpredictable, and completely binge-worthy. Not because it was elegant or meaningful, but because nothing beats watching ego try to take on satire and get destroyed by its own self-importance. That's the game. When ego steps into the ring with humor, it never walks out unscathed. What it leaves behind: gold, viral footage, meme-worthy moments, sound bites begging for auto-tune remixes. This wasn't about Sunny being weak. She's not. But satire doesn't play fair. It doesn't ask for permission, and it doesn't care how serious you look. All it needs is timing. And Kat, Tim, and Gutfeld delivered with sniper-like precision. No yelling, no direct shots, just a mocking tone with a hint of intellectual smugness. And boom, the roast landed. The moment passed, but Sunny kept going, like the fire was still burning, and that's what made it unforgettable. So while Sunny works on her next monologue, trying to reclaim the moral high ground, Kat is probably somewhere sipping a martini, chuckling to herself. Greg, meanwhile, is outlining his next roast, with Sunny's face still taped to the dartboard. Not out of malice, but because nothing's funnier than someone pretending to be untouchable while quietly spiraling. The audience got a glimpse behind the curtain, and once you've seen the wizard struggle with the fog machine, it's hard to pretend the magic is still real. The harshest punchline was never spoken. It was wrapped in sarcasm, served cold, and still landed with impact. The roast may be over, but Sunny's still cooking. If that breakdown hit you as hard as it did her, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and drop a comment if you think Sunny's still hunting for the off switch. See you in the next one.